Hello, welcome back. Now we know the basic understanding of firewall, and we also have the knowledge of the well-known ports for HTTP, FTP, SSH, and some other ports also. Let us see how to set up the firewall or check the firewall settings. My file name this time is Firewall Settings. So things that we are going to discuss in this section are the recommendations from my side. This is probably a very first time, or maybe one of the few times I'm going to recommend that you use the graphical user interface to enable or disable the firewall. There are certain other ways to enable or disable firewalls. We will discuss those during the RHCE certification exam, but right now GUI, graphical user interface, is something that I would discuss and I would recommend. How to see the whether the firewall is turned on or not, that is the second thing that we will see. How to disable the firewall if it is on, how to enable the firewall if it is turned off. Those are the things that we will see. And then if the firewall is turned on, then how do we open well-known ports for HTTP, FTP, SSH, and so on. And then we are also going to discuss about non-well-known ports, which are I call as user-defined ports. If there is any other specific program that you are running which is not one of these programs that we are discussing, then those programs may also need to communicate to the outside world through the firewall, and for those programs we may have to open different ports depending on how the program is configured. So that is what we will see in point number 5, how to open user-defined ports. And finally, and the most important thing also from the certification point of view, is that even if we make all these changes, we have to make sure that these changes are saved properly, and then the next time when the system boots up, all these changes will be in effect. If we make all these changes and do not do the last thing, then when the system boots up, these things will not be in effect, and again your settings will be kind of redundant. So let us see how these things are done. Now, first thing is the graphical user interface. If you click on system and if you go to administration, you will find, in fact it is not there, you should find a icon here for firewall, which I don't have, which means I don't have the graphical user interface program for the firewall setting. Now what to do? I am assuming that you have already configured a yum client properly. We have discussed that the yum client is configured using the repo file in your etc directory, and that is properly configured. So I'm going to assume now that it is configured, so we are going to install the GUI program which controls the firewall. So the name of the program you have to remember is system config firewall. So now let us see how long it takes. I hope it doesn't take too long. It has now, as you can see, the first time when we did the yum client configuration, it actually, let me go up a little bit. This is the command that I executed. The first time when we did the yum configuration, it did download the repository information, and it took a longer time. Now this time it did not download the repository information, and it directly started resolving the dependencies. It has it is going to install this system config firewall. That is one package, and I'm going to say yes to that. It is coming from the RHCSA repository. If you remember, the repository name that we had set up was RHCSA, which was from University of Texas. So now this package is getting installed. That is the GUI package. It did not mention anything about dependencies. It means the dependencies were already installed, and that's why we don't have to worry about the dependencies at this time. So now, as you can see here, the configuration, the installation of system config firewall, which is the GUI, is finished, and now we can type the actual name here, and I'm going to run that in the background. The ampersand command is to run a program in the background or I can directly go from here and hopefully I will see a firewall over here. So either of them will do. I'm gonna do it graphically just to make it more interesting. The process ID, as you can see, is 9133 there. It is doing initial startup check. I'm just gonna close this thing, and this is the firewall setting that we have. The firewall setting, let me make it bigger. Currently the firewall is enabled because I have this disable icon which I can click on. If I click on disable here, the firewall is disabled. If I click on enable, the firewall is enabled. It is as simple as that, clicking on these icons. But once I either enable or disable, I must say apply. Apply is the one that will make it kind of saved on our configuration files. So I will come back to this window a little later. It gives you some very important information about IP table services. We'll come back to this later, but this will come when we click on apply. So now I'm going to disable it. So let us say if you disable the firewall, again click on apply, this message will come, and we'll come back to this message a little later. So now let us say the firewall is enabled either during your certification, and then you have just set up your HTTP server. Now HTTP is a well-known server. If you scroll down here, it will show you HTTP server. As you can see here, HTTP is the web server, and port number written here is port number 80. So I'm just gonna check on this box. It means open up the port number 80, open up the port number for HTTP, and again click on apply. My job is done. The port 80 is now open. If you want to open another port, let us say SSH, which is 22, just click there and apply, and the port will be opened. And similarly, if you want to actually open up a port number for email server, okay, email is 25, which is SMTP program, and likewise you can open port numbers whatever depending on what you require. So in the certification exam, based on what servers they have asked you to configure, whether it's an FTP or HTTP, even if you forget the well-known port numbers, you can come to this graphical user interface and open up those port numbers. And I would suggest that you do this only if the firewall is turned on. If the firewall is disabled in your certification exam, then don't worry about it, but at least you should understand this concept that you can open up the ports and things will be all right. I also would suggest that you can check this using the nmap command, because nmap command shows you what ports are open. And let me see if I have clicked on yes. So nmap 192.168.1.3, which is my IP, and nmap is showing me all the ports that I have kept open here. Now since I'm on that machine itself, it may be showing me more ports, but if I do if I run the nmap command from the outside, then it will not show me all these ports that I see open from inside. So that is what the firewall is. Now I'm going to show you the next thing which I have mentioned over here, which is how to open the user defined ports. This is something useful that I have seen for the database administrators. For example, if you have a Oracle database, then Oracle database can be connected through a port number 1521. So I have, let me start again from the beginning. I have clicked on other ports here on the left hand side, and then I click on add here on the right hand side, and these are so many different ports that they have mentioned over here. I'm gonna say that I have a new port called as 1521. This port number is kind of well known to the Oracle DBAs, and the protocol that we are going to use is always, you know, TCP/IP. All of these are TCP/IP ports here. And now here 1521 port number is open. Again, I'm going to do an apply, and now things are back in action. So port number 1521 will be open. Let me see if I can see that through nmap. Actually, it is even though it is open, there is nothing running behind that port, so Oracle server is not running, and that's why I don't see all those things over here. Otherwise I would be seeing here something like 1521 and Oracle here on the right hand side. So Nmap command does not just show you ports that are open, it shows you what are the things that are running on your machine, so don't get confused with that. This is actually the better way of finding out what is whether the firewall is enabled or disabled, or which ports are open and which ports are not. So now once this is done, we have already clicked on apply. We can just close this thing. Our firewall setting is on. Now since our firewall setting is on, I would like you to now consider the most important topic, or the point here is point number 6. I say here, do not forget to start the firewall during the system boot up, and this is done using a command called as check config. So I will now show you chkconfig on, and the name of the firewall process is IP tables. So don't forget this IP tables here. Name of the firewall process is IP tables, and once you turn this thing, turn this chk config, I think my mistake here. IP tables. I'm not able to type properly. Okay, the command is chk config, the name of the service, and the word is on. Once we execute this command, then during the boot time, this IP tables process will be automatically started and all the firewall settings will be in effect at that time. So remember this command, memorize this command, and memorize the name of this IP tables. And that is what I would like to bring to your attention. It is very important to understand the firewall settings and to check the firewall settings maybe multiple times in your certification exam. So I will again see you in the next video.